Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Story, Ms. Lennon, for being here this morning to answer our questions. I too have a litany of issues and faults across Wicklow, from Blessington to Arklow to Wicklow, sense of frustration, anger, isolation in many cases, and the other deputies have referred to it. I don't think we're going to fix all those issues today, but in dealing with other utility companies, they often have a reps support, direct support line, direct support email. Irish Water in particular, I find it very, very good. I'm wondering if you could establish something like that while we're dealing and getting through this backlog of complaints. I think it's important to acknowledge your frontline staff, like frontline staff through many sectors in Ireland, have been working really, really hard through COVID in very, very difficult circumstances. Your call centre staff, your technical support and your engineers. And it must be very demoralising for them to hear their company that they're working hard for and doing their best, I believe they are doing their best, to have that company completely dragged through the media and over the coals. It's very demoralising for staff. So I acknowledge that the staff that I have dealt with have been working very, very hard. In that regard, I think when we know staff are working hard, we need to look at management, we need to look at infrastructure, and we need to have a look at the engineering as well. So I have a number of just direct questions if we could get, and I apologise for sitting with my back to you.
Oh, no,
I was last in, I got the worst seat. The 340,000 fibre to the home connections, are they actually fibre to the internal router in the house, or is there any element of old copper in that system?
No, it's fibre all the way.
All the way to the router?
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. The 1 million on your network that you have on your network at the moment, where are the weak points in the network? It's a legacy network that you have there. Where are the weak points that you would say we need to invest there, there and there? Is it the last 100 metres to the home? Is it the hubs? Is it, where is it?
So we have fibre to the cabinet built, as you know, to 1.6 million homes, and we're currently, and then we have our 340,000 rural. We're currently overbuilding that fibre to the cabinet network to bring fibre to the home, to do exactly what we did in rural to urban. So there's an element of those fibre to the cabinet customers who are quite far from the exchange in terms of, so you know the way that works. You get from the exchange to the cabinet as fibre, and then the copper brings you into the house. And that's where people will be experiencing difficulties and variations in quality because of the length of that copper line. So our plan is, and we've started that already, to overbuild, certainly at the moment 1.4 of that 1.6, and bring that fibre connection straight in. And we're at 670,000. So if you take the 340 away, we've done about 330 of those, and we're doing about 60,000 a quarter at the moment.
So it would be that last bit of the link, that old copper legacy stuff that's an issue there.
I mean,
okay, and you're working to address that.
Yeah,
you're rolling out fibre.
If you look at the data as well, like on copper, the fault rate is twice what it is on fibre. So if you look at that, in terms of when you have a whole fibre network and you've rid of the copper, the level of faults that you're going to get reported, fibre or copper loves lightning. It's not great with water, all that good stuff. Whereas fibre is much more resilient.
Yep.
So you have a much more resilient network with an all fibre network.
Okay, thank you. And in terms of the field engineers, you state you have 1,000 field engineers that dealt with 200,000 repairs. How many of them are directly employed in actually frontline faulting to the house?
The vast majority of them are. I can come back with a specific number, but our field, are set up in with a group, with a frontline manager. It's a very small management team in there. The vast majority of those guys are out there. They don't just do repair; they also do some build, etc. But the vast majority of them are on the road every day in their vans, fixing things or doing build.
So it's a combination between directly faulting, new works, installations, testings. That's the 1,000 field engineers are across that spectrum.
All across the country.
And do you feel that's enough to deal with the network that you have and the upgrades that you need to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we get targets set every year by Comreg in terms of faults or whatever, and we've been well under them this year, despite some, as you all saw, some storms or whatever. So yeah, that feels about right, and we have the resources we need for our build.
And are most of them contract staff?
No, our field are all employed directly by AIR. They've been there since, some of them have been there since, Post and Telegraphs or whatever. So they're,
Okay, and that's very helpful when you have field engineers that they know the legacy issues.
They know the networks better than anybody.
Yeah, okay, that's really important. In terms of fault reporting, so from the fault report to the repair reports going back in, there's a number of steps that have to be done. So are you experiencing any difficulty in when a fault is taken in, first of all, at the service centre, at the call centre, the diagnosis of that fault, how it's recorded, and then how it's sent out into the field, is there, are you having any difficulty in that fault?
No, our issue, so normally if you come in and you press the option on the IVR for a fault, you get through to the tech support team, and they'll do some kind of triage, to make sure it's not your modem or whatever before we'll send a field engineer out. So generally, now I can't say every single time because sometimes people miss something or whatever. Generally that works very well, and then it goes to the UG and the field guy gets it and he goes out to fix it. What the problem we were having was, and particularly with elderly customers, they couldn't get through to raise their fault, and they're not comfortable with the online forms. So some people are grand going online, but some people aren't, and they weren't necessarily comfortable with online forms. So the delay was in getting it reported, not in us getting it and getting to the field guy to fix it,
Okay, and just another query that came to me as well. Is there any difficulty with the assigning of error codes to addresses? Is there any difficulty being experienced? You need an error code for a connection.
You do. So,
and is there any difficulty in them being assigned, and the rate at which they're being assigned?
So you do. So in the past, when the network was designed all those years ago, there was no kind of codes. We didn't have error codes. We didn't have, So, and that made it challenging, particularly with rural addresses, because you'd go to the wrong address. So once error codes came out, we adopted them as a way to be very specific about the house we were going to or whatever. But they only get updated every quarter. So sometimes a customer gets frustrated because, we don't match up. We use the error code to match up on our network. If it's not registered, we don't have the matchup, and they're saying, I want to get connected. So we are working with the people who do the error codes to see if we can get that done a bit more regularly. Not
use the address alone.
No, because that's okay in more populated areas, but we found that actually caused us a lot of problems in rural Ireland because the addresses were kind of similar, and we end up going to the wrong places.
We would all experience that from Canvas in rural areas, I think.
So,
but just so, if the error codes were to be assigned on a monthly basis, do you think that would assist?
I think it would, yeah. I think the fact that it's every quarter there's a gap, and it doesn't make sense to someone. They're in their house and they're saying, where's my error code or whatever. So absolutely, yeah.
Okay, thank you for answering the question. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks very much, Deputy Matthews. Well done, Deputy Matthews. Yeah.
I just wanted to give one clarification. So we do have a dedicated email address for members of the Oireachtas where they can send any issues that they have, and we'll follow up to make sure that you have it if you don't have it.
You might.
We also have a dedicated phone line as well. If you could supplement the email address with a phone line, I think we'd all.
I think both email and the phone contact.
Very helpful.
You might email the committee with that.